Remember, you can get in touch with our Fearsome Foursome by emailing clubdubpodcast@mail.com and through Twitter, using the hashtag @clubdubpodcast.
Welcome to the
Club Dub Football Podcast,
where the only question is,
does your team make it into the club?
Can he get in? No, he cannot!
Hi, I'm Rob Rose, and thanks for listening to another episode of the Club Dub Football Podcast. With NFL breaking news, a little light on the ground this week, we're instead going to turn our attention to more exciting topics. Like how about if your favourite superstar player found themselves on a different position on your team? So if you want to know which superstars we'd like to see go from defence to offence, or maybe the reverse, are the superstars we'd like to see reclaim the title of Iron Man playing across the different phases of the game? Or do you think it's time the NFL encouraged teams to put the special back into special teams? So, for such hot topics, I'm going to be joined by JB, PB and Aldrin. And let's get on with the show.
You want Philly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Philly special. Ready? Here we go. Tonight! Easy! Kill! Lane! Let's go! Woo!
So hi gents.
Hello.
All right, Rob.
So we're back again with nothing to talk about but the entertainment we make ourselves this week, as the biggest NFL news is actually a lack of news. Who knew that Julian Edelman isn't joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? If it's good enough to be a news headline on pretty much every major US network, we should probably lead our pod with it. But instead, we have filled our pod time with a bit of fun and general mischief, which is going to be ultimately spearheaded, Phil, by what I'm promised is an absolute stellar quiz of the week. So shall I throw over to you? And again, my usual weekly check. Do we require pen and paper, Phil?
If you want to use your working out, you can have a pen and paper. I think that's smart.
So I consider myself prepared, pen in hand. And Phil, I'm going to hand over to you. Let's hope it's an absolute barn burner.
Welcome to Phil's Quiz of the Week.
So, Rob, I've got a good one for you this week, just to kill a bit of time on the podcast. A two-parter joined together. So the first part, can you name the top 5 non-quarterback touchdown pass throwers since the year 2000? So that's non-quarterbacks who've thrown the most touchdown passes since the year 2000.
And I'm guessing based on the type of question, this is going to be a team activity where we all throw in names, right? Because I'm guessing...
Go for it. Yeah, sounds good.
Well, I'm going to throw in... Chad Ochocinco, does he...
He did it all, didn't he? Kick a field goal as well.
Field goals.
Yeah.
And the other one I've got in mind, and you're going to have to help me, guys, was it Edelman who used to occasionally...
Julian Edelman.
Yeah, Edelman was the first name that I got down, and Ochocinco was the second one. So,
hang on.
Okay.
So on the 2 that you've named so far, Julian Edelman is not in the top 5. He's only thrown 1 touchdown pass, and Chad Ochocinco has attempted 1 pass, 0 completed, so no touchdowns.
It's got to be like you've got to think it's got to be like kickers or punters or something like that on trick plays that do it often.
Right.
All the top 5 are there are 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs.
And
this is touchdown passes. We'll move on to yards in a minute.
Antoine Randall L.
Antoine Randall L. Number 2 on the list, having thrown 6 touchdown passes between 2002 and 2010.
Does that include the one that he threw when the Pittsburgh Steelers won their 5th Super Bowl and defeated the Seattle Seahawks?
I don't think anyone cares about people talking about their own team's Super Bowl wins on this podcast.
Wow, you're going to be light on material the next few weeks, Phil.
Okay, right.
So it's not kickers. I was thinking it was going to be kickers.
So hang on, give us the positions again.
So now there are 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers left. 2 of which were still active last year.
MJD.
No,
Reece Jones-Drew.
no, I'm aware of MJD. Thank you.
Just checking.
I've got good knowledge. But no, not in the. He's not even in the top 10. He is. Hang on, I'll tell you how far down the list he is. 60th. 1 touchdown pass. I mean, there's a lot of people that have thrown 1 touchdown pass.
Did podcast favourite Mohamed Sanu throw any?
Mohamed Sanu, number 3 on the list. Well done, James Aldrin. He's thrown 4 touchdown passes. So now we've got 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver left.
Isn't he like 4 for 4 with all 4 of them being touchdowns or something like that?
No, he's 8. He's 7 of 8. 233 yards, 4 touchdowns.
I mean, that's better than Jameis Winston.
Oh, I know. I got the other receiver.
Go on then.
It's OBJ, isn't it? Because he threw 1 or 2 to Saquon. He's thrown a few, hasn't he?
OBJ is 6th on the list, just outside the top 5 with 2 touchdown passes.
Sure, it was him.
So who is going to be?
So there are 2 left who've thrown, the 4th and 5th have thrown 3 touchdown passes. Number 1 on the list has thrown 7 touchdown passes. So 1 more than Antoine Randall L.
So we're missing biggies still.
I was going to say, I was sure it was kickers.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer from the 2000s?
Not the other one. Not Edelman. Amendola. Did he throw any?
Joint with OBJ with 2 touchdown passes. So technically
I'm
7.
so close.
Knowledge.
Well, I just remember them splitting them out wide and throwing touchdown passes to each other.
Okay, we're going to get this. We're going to get this.
Three to go. 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver.
I'm running thin on the ground here now.
So hold on, since the year 2000.
Correct.
So I'm gonna running back we've got left, haven't we?
2 running backs and a receiver.
LaDainian Tomlinson at the Chargers used to. Tomlinson at the Chargers has got to be in the mix.
Robert Rose, LaDainian Tomlinson, 7 touchdown passes, number 1 on the list.
Nice work.
Right. So I know I've literally asked seconds ago. Remind me what we did.
1 running back and 1 receiver now.
Okay.
Both have thrown 3 touchdown passes. One of them still played last year, I believe, although I'm just consulting. Yep, he was with the Giants last year.
Oh, hello.
Giants.
Not a famous name, I don't think.
So it's not Paul Parry, the guy that didn't you predict many years ago, Phil, that he was the sleeper?
No.
I believe Paul Perkins.
Paul Perkins.
Paul Perkins.
He was going to be the sleeper of our draft.
He was on the Colts last year. It was exciting.
Yeah, I have a feeling Paul Parry played for Cardiff City, didn't he? I think that's where I've made the incorrect connection.
Yeesh.
So this gentleman was drafted in 2010 by the Vikings. He played there for 3 years, the Panthers for 2 years, the Bills for a year, the Texans for 2 years. He was on the Detroit Lions practice squad at the start of last year and then went to the Giants. Not a well-known name, I'd say. Great. And the running back is, I would say, fairly well-known, 2-time Pro Bowler, 2nd-team All-Pro, drafted by the Broncos in 2002. He was only there for 2 years, I think, and then played for the Redskins for 6 years.
Was he traded from the Broncos to Washington?
He was, for cornerback Champ Bailey.
Oh,
so
actually,
now that's an actual Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about him later in our
otherworldly area.
Who was a running back?
James, it feels like you know this person.
I'm sure I've got the name. Right.
Go on, throw it out.
I've looked down for an awfully long time.
Well, I've got a name as well, so go on, JB. Now I don't remember a single touchdown pass. I'm going off your other clues, Phil.
Yep.
It's going to be Clinton Portis, isn't it? If you went Broncos.
That's the name. That's the one.
Clinton Portis, 3 touchdown passes.
Touchdown pass. I don't remember
so
any of
now
them.
we've got a
3
receiver
from 6 attempts for 47 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Nice work.
Okay, so now we've got a receiver left who played for the Giants last year and has also played for the Bills and the Panthers and was drafted in 2010.
Correct.
On the Giants last
I say he played for
no
the
idea.
Giants last year. He had 2 games for the Giants and did not appear on the stat line.
I have
So
no
he
clue.
may just have been a special teamer.
I think you might have to give us this one, Phil.
Yeah.
Mr. Joe Webb, 3 touchdown passes.
Oh, hang on. But that's a tricky thing because Joe Webb was a quarterback for the Panthers.
True.
Oh, okay. So he's technically a quarterback. Was he drafted as a quarterback?
Is Phil's question falling
He was originally
apart?
drafted as a quarterback / wide receiver.
Shambles. Absolute shambles. Fix.
I'm not-
OBJ
I'm not-
was in the list.
Yeah.
All right.
Amendola and OBJ
All right.
were
So,
wrong.
What's the second part?
question the second.
Yeah.
Moving away from touchdowns, can you name, and 3 of the names are the same,
Jeez.
the top 5? Actually, no. Do you know what? I'm going to go top 8 this time. Let's long it out a
fucking
bit more.
heck. Okay.
No, top 10, because you've named a lot of them already. The top 10 receiving yards thrown. Sorry, the top 10 passing yards thrown by a non-quarterback player.
So I think Johnny Hecker has got to be in there because
Johnny Hecker's the one punter.
Yeah.
He is 4th on the list with 184 yards.
I was going to say he's like
Okay.
king of the trick play.
Well, let's cross some of the other ones off. So let's say LT.
Yes, LT is 8th on the list with 143 yards.
So OBJ's there, right? He's got to be.
OBJ is there. He is 7th on the list, 144 yards, so only 1 yard ahead.
Let's go. Let's try Antoine Randall out.
2nd on the list, 323 yards.
Okay.
Edelman.
Edelman is 9th on the list, 128 yards.
And what about Amendola then? Let's roll them.
Danny Amendola is, what did I say Edelman was? 9th?
Yeah.
Yeah, Amendola is 10th on the list with 83 yards.
So we've currently
Sanu.
got
Sanu has to be there. 'cause
Sanu,
he throws
yes.
absolute touchdown bombs.
Mohamed Sanu's 3rd on the list,
Yeah, yeah.
233 yards.
I was going to say, because he only throws deep shots. Sanu. So he always gets like 80 yards.
So we've currently got 2nd, 3rd, 4th,
Yeah, so you're currently missing 1,
7th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
5, and 6.
So it's Joe Webb on this list.
Joe Webb is number 1, 888 yards.
That's a
Although
quarterback.
we
That's
have
abysmal
discussed-
numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was a quarterback.
Yeah, but come on, this
Okay.
entire podcast is meant to be about like players
Switches.
switching positions
Yeah.
and such. So
Yeah.
okay, so what we got 6, 5, and 6 left,
5 and 6 left, yes.
and we have crossed off everyone we came up with in the previous answer.
Yeah,
Correct,
these
yeah,
2 new
mentioned
names.
the
Yeah.
playing.
Okay.
Both wide
these-
receivers.
Both wide receivers who I really want to
I'm
say
really
Deshaun Jackson. And I
Uh,
don't know why.
I see. I was waiting for you to pin it on a current Ravens quarterback who you were going to suggest isn't a quarterback.
No, Deshaun Jackson's not high
No,
up.
see, I'm going down the route of trick plays.
Yeah, that's what I originally thought. That's why I thought Johnny Hecker would have been touchdown one.
2 wide receivers. One of them I would say is still reasonably a star in the league, drafted in 2014. The other one was only in the league for 6 years, drafted in 2007 until 2013.
So the 2007. Give us some more clues. What team? Because I'm at a loss.
We're struggling now.
He has the same surname as a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Oh,
Santana Moss.
No.
Sydney Rice.
Sydney Rice is correct. What I'm wrong.
Yes.
Nice work.
Is 5th on the list with 174 yards. No touchdowns. Highest one on the list not to have thrown a touchdown pass.
Nice, Sydney Rice. We got.
So number 6,
So
current star.
number 6 is 2014.
Correct. 146
Star.
yards on touchdown.
So Phil, last clue-based question. Star. So I'm thinking fans of this team have jerseys with this guy's name on, right? That for me is a star.
I would say yes. I don't have the stats from Fanatics, but I'd say yeah, probably.
Has he only ever played?
Are available.
Has he only ever played for the team that drafted him?
No, he no longer plays for that team.
Is he Alan Robinson?
He's not Alan Robinson. No.
Okay. Jarvis Landry.
Juice himself.
Juice.
Jarvis Landry.
Of course it's
546 yards, 1 touchdown.
Of course it's him. Yeah.
Thanks for listening. That was Phil's quiz of the week.
That took far longer, I think, than it should have done.
Only 2 people on the yards list, top 10 yards list, have completed 100% of the passes thrown. Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola.
Well, there you go.
Well,
when Bill draws it up.
Yeah, but Belichick's not going to let them run a trick play if they're not absolutely guaranteed to work.
Also, when you've got Tom Brady,
although actually,
the trick
hang on a
plays
second,
are few and far between.
Who threw? I'm assuming does this just count regular season? Because who threw the pass that Brady wasn't quick enough to catch in the Super Bowl against the Eagles?
It was. I'm sure it was Amendola.
Yeah, which would
but it just must have been.
I was going to say the irony somewhat is the Patriots are so good at this when probably the most famous play of all time involving somebody who's not a quarterback throwing a touchdown pass is the Philly special, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be. So, you
can cut that in as the audio this week, Rob. You can cut in Philly as our intro.
Nice. So we'll do exactly that. So, Phil, I've got to be honest. That is good work.
Thank you.
That is, I've occasionally been a little bit of a cynic. That is good quiz work.
Thank you.
Occasionally.
It's amazing what I can do when I actually do some prep work.
It's incredible. Yeah, when you're not eating, the podcast is at least 10% better. And for those of you listening in recent weeks, we're very lucky that Phil is not currently playing Rory McIlroy on the Xbox while we're trying to record
100% focus
this particular episode. Yeah, the difference 100% focus makes. So after a brilliant quiz of the week, let's throw over to the topic that only the 4 of us could make work. We set ourselves on our WhatsApp group this week the topic of, and let me kind of phrase this right, who is the player you would most like to see play in a different position? Is that the best summation, do we think? So who would you like to see change position? Where are they going from? Where are they going to, and why? And Aldrin, you know where I'm coming. Podcast tradition is you go first. Who's your player and why?
Well, this was kind of sparked by some workouts that I saw this week as teams get back into buildings and stuff. And I just thought it's ridiculous, but it would be so funny. Aaron Donald, no longer a defensive end or defensive lineman, but a running back, would be so good to see. It'd be like an absolute bulldozer through a line. I just thought it would be so funny to see him on the other side of the ball, pushing poor lineman down the field with a ball in his hand, screaming for the end zone. So I just thought he would be so good there.
But there's great history for that, because you can go like recently to those trick plays that Andy Reid used to dig up for Dontari Poe.
Yeah, exactly, right?
But even going back to that, and of course the legend that is William the Refrigerator Perry.
Exactly.
I would love an Aaron Donald like run with the ball or something like that. That would be so good.
A touchdown.
Sorry, Phil. I think we agreed that we weren't going to talk about our own Super Bowl winning teams. I thought that was what we said earlier, wasn't it?
But yeah, Aaron Donald was the one that sparked my interest. I thought when you see Kelvin Benjamin playing tight end and Tim Tebow playing tight end, it's all a bit too safe, isn't it? They kind of look like they could be tight ends. I think Aaron Donald at running back would be absolute money. So
I do also think there's an element of that makes me think about the that really good year the Texans had. I think it was 2015. when
JJ.
JJ Watt was just involved in everything. And I remember him lining up as a tight end on the 3-yard line or something like that. And the commentary team going, this is going to him. Because of course it was, because you're not putting him in as a bluff. And what happened? It came to him and he caught it and he scored a touchdown. And it's one of those things where even when you know it's about to happen, you still can't do anything about it. Let Aaron Donald get up ahead of steam and he's just going to flatten everybody.
Well, am I right in thinking on the JJ Watt subject, didn't he play like tight end in college or high school or something like that? I'm sure he was a tight end originally. That's why they chucked him in. I mean, it's a loose connection when he's in the pro game and you throw him in on offense for a little bit. But
do you know what, the Waldron? I love your suggestion. Not only because Aaron Donald, not only could that work. I mean, he's got quick enough feet. He's fast enough. You know, he could be effective. The other reason I love that is it's been far too long since the NFL's had an Iron Man. You know, there was a time when the phrase NFL Iron Man, you know, you played across all three phases or at least across offense and defense. Yeah. And the last one really, or the last that was probably Deion Sanders, right? I mean, the one that probably, and what's that? Late 90s? I know he played into the noughties, didn't he? Was it the Ravens maybe towards the tail end?
I mean, only just though, wasn't it? Right.
But I mean, we're going back 20 years for the last true Iron Man. And why not? Why not Aaron Donald? Like you say, I mean, if you see, he's not quite going to be Derrick Henry, but short yardage, surely. Yardage.
Aaron Donald, the question is, do you want to meet Aaron Donald in the gap if he's running the ball and he's got a head of steam? No, thank you.
I mean, there are times when Aaron Donald has put hits on players that have made me not want to meet him at meet and greet, let alone actually trying to stop him do anything.
I know, right? Also, just as my last kind of foray into this subject matter a little bit, did everybody see Kendall Hilton, who was the famed stand-in for the Denver Broncos last year when all of their quarterbacks had to isolate, it was now in practice taking defensive back snaps. So from wide receiver to quarterback to playing defensive back. And it was so funny because if you go on his Twitter, he's like, I'll take your trash out. I will bring the Gatorade in. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I'll play wherever you want. So I just thought that was absolutely brilliant.
So I love that, Aldrin, to kick us off. And here's one. I mean, if anyone could use him, I mean, Sean McVay's got that kind of mind, doesn't he? I mean, so to round this out, Aldrin, I want out of 10 likelihood that Aaron Donald takes offensive snaps in the year ahead. 10 is definite. 1 is never.
I mean, absolutely 0. You don't take your prize horse out to go on the offense when he's so effective on defense, do you? I don't know. I think if, to your point though, Sean McVay is such a good mind. If he'd thought of it or he thought it was going to be a goer, he would have tried it way before now because they've had so many ups and downs on running backs that I think he would have chucked him in before now.
I suppose so. We were talking Johnny Hecker, weren't we? And I know he was doing it before McVay, but maybe. Do you know what? Now you've said it, I want it. You know, it's like that thing 100%. I never knew I needed, and now it exists.
When you think of him 5 yards back from the line, receiving the ball and ploughing forward, you've just got to see it, haven't you? It'd be so good.
It'd be amazing.
It just reminds me of those early scenes in The Waterboy, when his infamy is starting to spread and you just see him pacing around in the backfield, in the other side, losing his mind. And the other players are like, don't let him anywhere near me. Just you off you go. You do whatever you want. And you can just imagine players like, I'm going to make a business decision with regards to if I'm going to tackle this guy or not.
It's 100% that. I just think it'd be a troubling time to be a linebacker, wouldn't it? You just wouldn't want to be the guy in the gap.
So you've just raised another very interesting podcast conundrum there, JB. Adam Sandler making a good American football-based movie. 10 being it will happen one day, 1 it will never happen, because The Longest Yard and The Waterboy do not make my top 5.
Longest Yard's a great film.
But hang on, you've just raised 2 different things. You said Adam Sandler making a good American football movie. Wouldn't make my top 5 American football movies. Those are 2 different things. I quite like The Waterboy and I quite like The Longest Yard. Are they the top 5? Are they my top 5 American football movies of all time? No, but they're still good. I still find ways to enjoy them.
No, I can't give Adam Sandler that much credit. Sorry, yeah, I'm not quite feeling the love. So give us so has he got one in his locker, JB?
No.
All right, okay. Well, with that Adam Sandler bombshell, I'm handing over to you for your player you'd love to see in another position. What position and why? The floor's yours, sir.
We will just get this out of the way, as Aldrin has hinted at, for the obvious. Something. It would be good if the Baltimore Ravens played Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. Something. I kind of went a little back and forth in my mind about this because I got a little bit hooked into which wide receivers would I like to see play defensive back, because I got involved in the whole, well, they're quick, they're good at sort of finding the ball in the air. Would that translate into that? And weirdly enough, I settled on something completely different and a little bit the opposite of what Aldrin has come up with, in that I would love to see Derrick Henry as a pass rusher.
He was my other one on my list, because if you ever watched the top 100, every year that Derrick Henry's been on it, somebody goes, why have we got this defensive end playing running back? He's what, 250 pounds, 6'2", 6'3". Yeah, he's built like a pass rusher, isn't he?
He is, but it's not the physical attributes that made me kind of think to this. And I go back to, I think, one of the last Red Zones we watched, not last season, but the season before. And Rob and I were there, and we were talking about the fact that I think it was when Henry made was it like an 80, 90 yard touchdown run? And
just any game against the Jaguars.
I think it was against the Jags. And
he always puts up 200 yards.
It was one of those things where I think Rob had said if they weren't going to bring him down. As soon as he realized he was on his way, he's like, I am not getting caught. I am not getting stopped. If anyone touches me, I am just carrying them with me. And I think I just want to see that thing of like, he would again hit the gap and be like, you don't want to be like a tight end or something trying to block him. Can you imagine like a running back trying to block him? Like him going up against, like, I love Najee Harris, but I wouldn't want Najee Harris to block Derrick Henry trying to get to Ben Roethlisberger.
We've got to make this one happen as well, haven't we? I love that idea. And actually, you're kind of opening diatribe and you're talking about wide receivers and defensive backs. Why? I mean, do we know why are wide receivers typically taller than defensive backs? Why is the average height of a wide receiver 6'2", the average height of a defensive back 5'11"? I mean, maybe there is a reason.
They're all failed wide receivers, probably.
Well, maybe, but I mean, you think the NFL, I mean, this is the cream of the crop, right? Surely there's a lot of very talented athletes who are 6'2".
That was the difference, and that was the thing that marked the Legion of Boom as being quite different, because I think Sherman especially is taller than average for a back. And that was why everyone thought, oh, maybe this is why they're so successful, because they can match size going up against people.
I think it's like that. It's the whole back pedal stuff, though, isn't it? And agility, because it's one thing being a receiver because you're running in a straight line forward, whereas obviously as a defensive back, you're back pedaling. You've got to adjust and be that little bit more, I don't know, athletic, I guess.
Lower center of gravity, maybe.
Yeah, could
pivot.
be.
Maybe. I don't know. I've just never maybe thought it through enough. I like it now as an idea.
But to go to kind of the rating of 10, how likely do I think it's going to be to happen? I think I'd have to give it like a -7, because again, there's no way the Titans are risking putting Derrick Henry in on defensive snaps and like killing the bell cow. But I will say, if ever there was a coach that would do it, it's probably going to be Mike Vrabel, because that guy just loves that kind of stuff.
Mike Vrabel loves rubbing salt in wounds as well, doesn't he? So you can imagine that happening in the kind of game where it matters, you know, like a Ravens. Yeah, I can imagine that.
But isn't that how the fridge got started? Wasn't it Mike Ditka trying to rub
salt in the wound of the 49ers, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was it.
Bears the year before. Although I will say, for all the love William the Refrigerator Perry gets, as obviously a famous member of the 85 Bears and the London Monarch later in his career, the fact that the Refrigerator scores a touchdown in that Super Bowl and Walter Payton doesn't. Oh, I don't know. If you could rewrite a part of NFL history, that might be it for me. And maybe that's a topic for another Slow News Week that we come back to what part of NFL history would you rewrite and why. But JB, credit where credit's due. Off the back of Aldrin's, I'm loving these 2 for 2. And Phil, after Quiz of the Week being such a success, you're on a roll here. Who's the player you'd move and why?
Unfortunately, Rob, I think you're going to be upset with the inspiration for my pick. And I've been umming and ahhing as to whether I think this person should, or, could potentially switch to a linebacker or a defensive back. But based on this particular highlight, I'm going to say a defensive back. And I would love to see DK Metcalf as a cornerback.
I had that too.
Exactly.
That was another on my list.
Where he chases down the interception against the Cardinals and stops the touchdown. Just incredible speed, like hulks the guy down even after running so far. Like, what other wide receiver is going to do that? So I could quite imagine him being, one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He's tall, he's strong, he's quick, absolutely hard to beat. Who's going to be able to kind of beat him in coverage or, catch over the top of him or anything like that. So yeah, DK Metcalf as a defensive back, as a corner, I think would be pretty formidable.
You don't upset me at all. I mean, he did absolutely chase down Butter Baker, but I think you'll find the next play we were in for 6. So I'm all right with that. I'm all right with him getting his highlight reel. But you know what? 3 for 3. I'm thinking I might let the side down here. Do the Seattle Seahawks rebuild the second generation of the Legion of Boom around DK Metcalf?
No,
let's make it happen.
No, because
there's got to be a petition, right?
They will need someone on offense to replace the gap that Metcalf is going to make. But yeah, I think my initial thought when Phil started talking was, no, he's far too big for that. But then I thought, well, no, because he's that kind of Usain Bolt thing of being too big to be as quick as he is. And then you think, well, hang on a minute. Well, yeah, why couldn't he be a back?
I'm with Rob's earlier point, though. I don't think you need to replace him on offense. I think you just stick him on both sides of the field and let him be a true NFL Iron Man, because I think he's got the athleticism and the stamina and the wherewithal to play both positions. I think just stick him out on the field, let him go nuts.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. And I don't know, the issue that I'm coming across, right, is we've had 3 great ideas, 3 things I'd love to see. And every single one that's come up, you go, well, would you risk you said about Derrick Henry, JB, your bell cow back? Would you risk, when you're like, why not? I mean, these guys can be injured at any time. You see a twisted knee, you see an MCL, an ACL, these things can happen in the blink of an eye. Why not be brave? Why not be bold? Why not do something different? But yeah, DK Metcalf is a real shout, and obviously feeds into my point from earlier about these tall, rangy cornerbacks that the league is currently without. Phil, you needn't have worried, sir. I think you've absolutely delivered on both fronts this week. I absolutely doff my cap. That is a stunning piece of prep and work. It's amazing what you can do when you're not eating shreddies.
Thank you very much.
I take so many of my comments from earlier podcasts back. And now, is this all left to me then? So I kind of regret going last with this, but stick with me because mine isn't quite as straightforward as you guys, right? So if you go back 20 years, I think there was something special about special teams, right? Now, you used to have quarterbacks who'd hold the ball for the field goal kicker, right? And those kind of things. Well, that's gone now. It's now the punter or whatever who tends to take that duty. And also, there was a time where punt returners and kick returners were superstars, right? You had Deion Sanders, we've already mentioned on this podcast. Champ Bailey, bizarrely, got mentioned on this podcast when we were talking about the Clinton Portis trade. And I'd even add in someone like Patrick Peterson in his rookie year at the Cardinals as being the kind of top-tier talent who's allowed to catch the ball. Now, look, I understand that punt returns and kick returns, when we talk about likelihood of injury, when you've got players running full speed against other players running full speed, when we start to think about collisions and the type of impact, I get there's a bit of a risk here. But wouldn't you love to see Lamar Jackson return kicks? Is it just me that's like, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and I know I'm probably picking 2 here. Wouldn't you love to see them returning kicks and just seeing what they could do? Running away from 11 men who barely made the roster, who were earning basic NFL money, with their one shot to absolutely drive a superstar into the ground. I think it's time that special teams gets its mojo back and we let the real superstars return kicks and return punts. I'm sick of some guy I've never heard of, some fourth string wide receiver getting that duty just because if his head was to come off, nobody would mind, right? I want your team captains should maybe even rotate kick returns. It should just be like a rule. And I want like the Champ Baileys of this world, the Deion Sanders of this world, returning kicks and making exciting things happen. Discuss.
Well, do you know what?
Can I just say Rob's views on
people's heads being removed
do not represent the views of the Club Dub podcast nor kick and punt returners' families.
Oh, and if we could also just, we have name-checked a specific brand of breakfast cereal. Other brands of breakfast cereal are available.
Yeah, but they're not knitted by nanas, are they?
But
you either go big or you go home, JB.
Going back to your selection, I'm 100% with that because he's kind of built in the mold of Cordero Patterson, isn't he? Like in that type of stature and physique. And Patterson is the best he's the best kick returner in the game. So yeah, I mean it's 100% going to work. It's 100% going to end up in tragedy for the Ravens, but I think that would be absolutely fascinating. And to be fair, there's so many good players that you could have on punt returns, though, couldn't you? That would.
There's not much more. I don't think there's much more electric in the NFL than a kick or a punt return touchdown. Maybe a near full length of the field pick six, but that. I mean, we all know that Cordero Patterson return where it got caught by the spider cam or whatever it is, and that amazing camera angle. I think if you're in a stadium, and I don't think we've ever seen it at the London games, but if that was to ever happen, I think the roof would come off the place. Absolutely incredible. So, and we've seen, it immediately brings to mind that Lamar Jackson run against the Bengals. I think it was 2 years ago. So seeing that on, I think he'd get some decent yardage for him, but Aldrin's right. Probably more often than not, he'd ended up pounding into the ground, and it's probably not what they want their multi-million-dollar investment.
But now, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, obviously that's the part of this that I'm absolutely on board for. Lamar Jackson getting smashed in, sign me up. As long as nothing serious actually happens to him, that would be terrible. And I also am just going to make a point of when Rob's talking about return superstars, I think there's someone that you left out, Rob, that I think is frankly ridiculous. But yeah, I think if you talk about players who, once they get the ball in their hands, are great in space or great with making space and getting down the field. And yeah, Lamar Jackson absolutely fits that. And you would be crazy to try and deny anything else. So yeah, if it's about getting the ball to him and seeing what happens, it's the same with that kickoff in the Broncos Seahawks Super Bowl. In the start of the second half, the ball goes to Harvin and he immediately runs it straight back for a touchdown. And it was that great mix of speed, vision, and knowing like a couple of blocks going his way. And I think Jackson, you talked about Kyler Murray as well. Like, honestly, Kyler Murray would probably have even more risk of getting hit and hurt because I think he is the smaller of the two. But yeah, like if you need a touchdown and it's the choice between, you've got a kickoff and it's the choice between going to the Super Bowl or going home for another season, why not roll the dice?
But here's my point, right? So obviously my comments about somebody's head coming off were slightly overzealous, right? We would not want physical injury on anybody. But to the point we're all landing on here with all four of our selections is, as NFL fans, we are robbed. And Phil's just made the point. What is more exciting than a kickoff or punt return? And, Devin Hester, you just referenced, right? Absolute superstar. But here's the problem. If Devin Hester was the wide receiver one, right, true wide receiver one for any of the teams in his career, he wouldn't have been returning kicks. Patterson would not be the kick returner if he was the wide receiver one on that team, right? DK Metcalf, maybe he's got half a chance at the moment of returning kicks for the Seattle Seahawks, because ultimately they have other people around him. And I just think that's a real pity. The other thing, and this goes back to a point we made on our podcast a few weeks ago, when is the world going to wake up to the value of special teams? We talked about if you get a good kicker, how many more games, particularly close games, you're going to win with a good kicker, yet the NFL doesn't seem to prioritize them in the right kind of way. I think it's the same with kick returns, PB. I think you're spot on. If somebody rolled the dice and put their top talent returning punts and kicks, that would pay dividends in points per game, points over a season. You know, that could be the difference between the playoffs or not. Yet nobody quite seems happy enough
The last
to
one
roll
I
the
can
dice
think-
with this.
Yeah, the last one I can think to do it was Antonio Brown at the Steelers, and when he drop kicked that guy, drop kicked the punter in the head, pretty much, like trying to hurdle him.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's maybe, again, an unfortunate example we've picked out there. But you know what? I just want, and it's funny you mentioned Hecker actually earlier, talking about the Rams, and actually even before McVay, obviously Hecker and special teams at the Rams has been a real kind of fun part of their game for probably the last decade. But how many other great special teams units are there in the league? You know, how many other teams, apart from probably Hecker and the Rams, immediately spring to mind? And whether it's Lamar Jackson...
Don't get Phil started on Bradley Pinion.
We'll be
I'm
back
have to hear this
Pinion.
story again.
I just want to see special teams being special again. Deion Sanders returning kicks. No one could have taken that job off him. You know, the guy absolutely wanted his time in the spotlight to make things happen for his team. And we need more of that in the NFL.
The other thing though, when you talk about like kick returners and the impact he can have on special teams, we of course need to acknowledge Desmond Howard, the only, I think, special teams member to be named Super Bowl MVP because of his kick returns for the Packers. So it is, and I will stand by this until the day that I die. I think it was the 2014 fan-voted NFL Play of the Year was incorrect, because what it should have been is it should have been that Rams punt to the Seahawks where they feinted like it was going on the right side of the field, and everybody on the Seahawks team bit on it and rushed there. And I think Tavon Austin even fell over to draw them in. Meanwhile, the punt's gone to the left, and there's two Rams who could have just, like, they could have stopped and got a coffee on their way to the end zone. They had all of the time in the world.
Didn't the Seahawks do that back to them in another game?
Yeah.
And this is it. You know, I don't want special teams to just be the automatic, we've punted the ball, we've, you know, sent it some 40 yards down the field, and then some guys called a fair catch. I appreciate player safety is a serious point in this, right? We're talking about injury, and I would never want to see anyone hurt. But it is just a bit, I don't know, look at what moving the extra point back, what was it, 10 yards? I mean, it wasn't huge, was it? I'm trying to think what they actually moved about. And just that small change in the fabric of the game, what it did. I just think, my crusade is to put the special back in special teams. Again, get it on Twitter, get me a petition, I'll sign it. Do you know what? Out of nowhere, gents, I think we've somehow managed to pull together 40 minutes of the best NFL-related entertainment you will find anywhere.
If I may, I would like to make one further suggestion.
Oh, go on.
So
this is podcast bonus footage.
Bonus material here.
Bonus material.
This comes back to something that we have seen demonstrated and discussed in an America's Game, which, for anybody who don't know, America's Game is now the NFL's recurring series of highlighting the Super Bowl champions season. And what this will do is if we achieve this goal, it will extend the career of one of the game's absolute greatest players. This is a man who on his previous team often remarked that he was the best on that team at this particular skill. And therefore, gentlemen, I propose to you that Tom Brady should become the punter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Pinion family will never listen again. Never. So come back to this, because this is a new one on me. Can Tom Brady punt a football?
In one of the Patriots America's Game, Tom Brady talks about being a punter, wanting to be a punter, and then they show him punting, and he's actually pretty good at it. And we're just thinking, well, you know what, when his arm goes, just, you know, have him use his leg instead, extend his career by another, 15 years?
There is a 40-second YouTube video, every Tom Brady career punt. So there you go.
I think if we're going off NFL,
a lot of punts, right?
I think if we're going off NFL films and the best punter / kicker, I think there was not an America's game, but was it a Hard Knocks of the Texans? And I feel like there was a very large gentleman that tried to kick. And I think that is the best change of position that we'd ever like to see.
Was it Wilfork?
It is 100% Pro Bowl Vince Wilfork kicking a football. I think whilst wearing dungarees.
I was going to say,
it was a special episode.
Isn't that the episode where he turns up in dungarees?
I think we're now in the territory of talking about the types of clips YouTube was made for. You know, YouTube exists for these.
Let me tell you this, Rob. The YouTube video, every Tom Brady career punt, is 1/3 longer than every Tom Brady career catch. So that tells you as much about his catching skills as it does about his punting skills. But I'll give you a non-NFL, I'll give you a cross-sport position change. As we well know, leading England goal scorer, leading England striker, Harry Kane, noted NFL fan, he's going to leave those jobbers in North London. He knows he's never going to win anything there. I'd like to see him taking kicks in the NFL. I reckon he fancies himself as a place kicker towards the end of his career. Why don't you? You know, you're not going to win anything there, Harry. Come and try it out in the NFL. See what you can do.
Do you know there is a slight precedence for that? So I seem to think that former Tottenham Hotspur striker Clive Allen was the kicker for the London Monarchs after he finished playing football.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, I'm going back to the 90s and, you know, they're a bit sketchy even for me, but I'm pretty sure it was Clive Allen who did it for a season.
You're right.
I cannot tell you if he was any good, but I do seem to remember that being a thing.
1997.
There you go. I feel somewhat vindicated for bringing up that point then. So the only thing we haven't touched on, and I think we might put this in the melting pot for a future episode, when we have another slow NFL week, I think coaches you'd most want to see take the field needs to be maybe our next topic. I think, you know, as much as we'd all want to pick Mike Vrabel, we might just have to all decide, maybe draw straws for that particular one.
Mike Vrabel actually did take the field. So are you going to exclude coaches that have played in the NFL?
Well, no, I think they could go position changes too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you could see Andy Reid running back, and I think it's on.
But again, isn't
interesting?
Isn't there a playoff game or something that has Mike Vrabel in on offense catching a touchdown?
Mm.
Oh, I appreciate that we're talking about people who at some point in their life have probably been NFL players, but coming back at the age they are, I think is more my, you know, like we say, Andy Reid.
Yeah,
John Harbaugh playing cornerback. I'd love to
slot Bill Belichick on the offensive line. I am sure that there are thousands of players that would love that.
So do you know what? With that thought left not only in our minds, but teetering there, teasing our listenership that might one day make its way onto a recorded pod. Can I say, gentlemen, out of nowhere, you have produced NFL Chit Chat Gold. I think you should all be remarkably proud. And in 7 days' time, if nothing's happening still in the NFL, we'll be back for more of the same semi-important commentary, semi-nonsense. And you know what? I'll look forward to it as much as anything. Gentlemen, thank you for your company as always. And
Thanks,
shall we do it again in 7 days?
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Stay safe.
This is amazing.
Remember to subscribe and be cool. Tell your friends.